G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I want to do a video, or one of my myth busting videos on, and this one's on the 50 BMG. So this big fella, or one of these big fellas in front of me. And I suppose really, I've done a fair bit of work with the 50 BMG over the last 5 years in particular, been sort of going through and making a platform shoot as well as I can out at extreme long range. And I did that a little bit because it was content, because I thought people are going to want to see that sort of thing. But also a little bit driven by the fact that every time I shot long range, there would be some comments that would say, why don't you use a 50 BMG? Because that's the best long range sniper rifle. And I suppose, listen, I knew there was always going to be some issues there because it's the basic physics of the process. But I thought, okay, let's go through and do this, and let's just see where we really get to. So my main, one of my main goals was to end up with a answer to that question: is it the most accurate sniper rifle? But I suppose I also ran into some other bits and pieces. I want to go through those today and explain what I found and what I know out of a fair bit of laying down behind one of these and using it quite a bit. To start off with, is it the most accurate? Well, I can tell you right here and now, no, not by a long shot. No, it's not. The truth of it is, all cartridges, all rounds are, in the essence of them, as accurate as each other. They all do the same thing. They all fire a projectile down a barrel, which is a bit of steel with a hole in it, a thread in there, or the rifling in there. They fire it down there, it's released, and that means that in the essence, they all work as accurately as each other. Some are more efficient, so some do it with the amount of powder, the amount of speed, the amount of how the bullet flies are more efficient. Some do it with more consistency, so there's some more accuracy created there. But generally, if you set them up properly, they're all going to be as consistent as each other. The main thing, some have more energy, and I suppose that's the big detail of what actually makes is the core ingredient of a rifle being more accurate than another rifle. As a general rule, the smaller the cartridge, the more accurate, as long as it's got decent speed and it's projectile and things to deal with wind and stuff like that. The smaller, the less recoil, the more accurate it is. And the opposite in the other direction. The bigger it is, the more recoil it is, the less accuracy. And this is because, in actual fact, that recoil, right at the beginning of the recoil process, when the human is dealing with the amount of recoil it's got, the rifle does actually start moving. The barrel actually starts moving before the bullet's released. So that means the more recoil, the slightly bigger the group. Now this can be changed around a little bit. It's not about the round when you go to the really big target rifles. And there are some guys, believe it or not, that play target rifle, bench press target rifle with the 50 BMG. They're big rifles, very heavy rifles, in the over 100 pounds, over 50 kilos, a lot of those sort of rifles, and up from there. So they're big rifles. And they then, with generally using slightly lighter rounds or projectiles in brass and things like that, there is the likes of really small groups, 2-inch group at 1,000 meters has been done. But this is a very specific thing, and if it was on a turret, in a setup, in a precision turret, in a machine gun thing, what the 50 BMG is, Browning machine gun, set up in that format, then okay, it can be a little more, it can be accurate in that form as well. But truthfully, in its Browning machine gun form, it used ball ammo, so it wasn't quite as consistent, and it wasn't trying to be. It was made to fire out a pattern out there, as in the way it was designed to be in warfare and that type of thing, as to take out a machine. In actually referring to and speaking to guys who have the 50 BMGs and really do shoot them at extreme long range in the way of the ELR sort of stuff that we do, they took the average rifle, and we're talking in the 30 to 40 pounds of sort of, they're still heavy rifles, maybe 25, but 30 to 40 pound rifles that are the sniper rifle style thing, then really talking about vehicle size groups out at those distance, where they have moderate accuracy is back in the half-meter size group at 1,000 yards, and if you're trying to punch a hole through a wall, that type of thing, then okay, that makes sense. But they are not what you'd call a precision rifle. And don't get me wrong, there's some egos attached to this, so some people don't want to hear that type of thing, but it's the nature of the firearm. Once you go to the level of very specific bullets in heavier, very well set up, larger than carry around sniper rifles, then yes, you start to get more and more accuracy, but that's the nature of the fact that ultimately, even the people who designed the first of the sniper rifle format in the 50 BMG, when they wanted to get real accuracy, they shortened it down, put a small bullet in it. So that's the 416 Barrett. That's what they did to create more accuracy in that format. And really, if you come down in recoil again with a little less, with good bullets and that type of thing, is where more accuracy comes from. And that, like I said, that just keeps filtering down till you end up with some of the very small ones that are extremely accurate rifles by reducing that recoil. So that's basically that on the accuracy side of things. The next one, I suppose, which is a fairy tale from a long while ago, which I talk about, and I don't have proper footage of it. I'll try and put down anything I do have, but that is that the power from a 50 DMG will blow the ears off something, even just with a bullet flying past, because they create that much shockwave that they blow things up. Not at all. not at all. Bullets don't actually work like that. Yes, there's a shockwave that comes from a supersonic bullet. That disappears when it slows down to subsonic sort of stuff to the largest degree. But they don't really push any air or wind about them, that sort of stuff. They actually travel through, as much as they are affected by the air, they actually are very slipstream the way they travel through things. So I have certainly seen, I'll see if I can find the footage, but where they will pass immediately by the flag, and we will see the dust impact behind, but the flag won't flinch. Even where they have passed, and maybe it wasn't 50 BMG, maybe there's smaller ones, but passed through the flag, and we don't even see that actually happen. It actually is that quick that it carries no pressure wave in other than the supersonic shock wave, which is a sound thing, but they don't cause any effect as they go past. So no, they don't do that whatsoever. If you miss, you miss. They work just like any other, whether it's a little tiny round or a really big round. If it just misses, it just misses. It doesn't move it because it came close to it. And I suppose in that the next bit that would go into it is, I've heard a fair bit about I suppose the penetration power of the 50 BMG. It will punch through anything because it's got so much energy. Listen, there's a little bit of logic to the fact that it does carry a lot of energy with it, without any question. But punching through things, well, not really. You know, in the way of cracking something brittle like a concrete wall or stuff like that, or punching something, a lot of energy, pushing it, if it's close enough, then yes, you have a larger bullet, a larger projectile that's traveling at moderate speed. They're not super fast generally in the normal sort of setup. They are a pretty big, fat, stubby bullet compared to the slim. These ones up here are very custom ones, which are moving into the 800 and plus grains, so very heavy projectiles. The normal sort of ball ammo type thing, the smaller stuff down in the 650 grains, and then when they get down to where they're smaller in the 650 grains, then and 700 grains and things down there, then they get to travel with more muzzle velocity, but they're slowing it down a lot faster because they don't have a very streamlined shape for traveling through the air. Which means that, yes, a lot of energy, but that energy is dissipating reasonably quickly. So what that means is, I suppose without getting too complicated in the energy side of things, is that I've actually seen these certainly in at 600 yards, even the biggest and the fastest, and all the different ways to do it in reasonably heavy, but abrasion resistant. So the likes of a Bisley 450, it's a sort of a low grade armor steel, maybe not quite an armor, but that sort of steel, AR steel, where it doesn't punch through, nothing punches through, nothing even puts a little blemish in the steel. That's proper hard hitting at just 600 yards. At the likes of 1200 yards, both monolithic and the lead cores, the likes of the Hornady AMAX here, on just 8mm steel. So for Imperial, that's 5/16 steel. not even bend, not even dent or put a blemish in the steel at all. I should say not quite. I actually did a little test of that. It's something I haven't done before. I normally shooting this one out further, but I did a proper test and hit that steel a fair few times with solid and with the lead core. The only bit of damage I did to that steel was when I hit the little skinny handle, and I could say I did it deliberately. It was really just sort of 6 inches high where I thought I was going to hit, at 1150 yards, so a bit over 1,000 meters, 1,070 meters or something like that, and hit that, and it bent that handle a little bit. It certainly did bend it, but it didn't even break it, which it sort of shows the level of what actually happens with this sort of projectile, is that it actually splatters before it manages to do anything to the steel. And that's even to the level of out at 2,800 yards, which is a fair bit further, but with the lead core or the Hornady AMAX hitting on just 3mm mild steel. Didn't punch through that either, just bent it, and actually did a reasonable bend to it, so there's a reasonable amount of energy. But what it actually is about, the penetration side of things, is it's what the bullet is. If you have armor penetrating, which means it has something super hard on the inside, which then carries the energy for long enough to be able to push through things like hardened steel or even mild steel in those cases, then yes, it would go through. But largely, no, it has no more penetration power than any other projectile. It just carries more energy there. So more energy without the penetration power just means the bullet ends up exploding. You get a nice big bang and clang of things, but no, it doesn't penetrate anymore. And I suppose the last thing I would say to go with this, and this is out of some recent stuff that happened in Western Australia, but it was, do you have to contact the flight controls, ATF, or whoever it is, the people who look after the planes, and check out about airspace when you fire a 50 BMG? And no, not at all. The instance would be, and I suppose this is a case which is about the likes of something that carries lots of energy, and shooting it at close ranges. It's not ideal in shooting at 100 yards or that sort of distance, or up to probably, and I don't know where that would be, probably 200 or 300 meters away. And you're shooting at something that is, if it's nice, heavy steel set up the proper way, so your ricochet, your splatter, your projectile goes straight down, hey, then there's no issues whatsoever. The moment you're shooting at something that necessarily is not the right angle, or could tumble and move in a different direction, or shoot at something that is an uncertain mass, and you have something like a 750 grain or a 650 grain or an 800 grain projectile, what it is, but if it can ricochet off and go and travel without actually splattering because there's an angle there, and this is the same for all rounds, in fact, the moment it can ricochet off that thing, so you're shooting at an uneven shape, and be it whatever that is, of all the different things you can do, if it's got the ability to basically end up where you end up with a surface that can ricochet something up, then yes, you potentially, especially if you're shooting at moderately close ranges, you can be firing things 500 meters into the air. And if you've got something like a 50 BMG that's firing up there, that's being irresponsible to start off with. Don't do that sort of thing. We have videos on targets and stuff like that they should always be angled down to a certain degree. Depends on your trajectory and that side of things. Not relevant at all in your extreme long range. Extreme long range, you have to be concerned about your follow through and where a skipping bullet comes off the ground. But when your bullet's coming down onto a target, then it is just going to go down. And we have countless evidence of picking up the flower, as we call them, right in front of the target, where that's exactly what happens, because the bullet is coming down onto target, which means that it has exactly that same angle to push things down. But it's something always to consider, both your backdrop, and certainly if you're playing games as some of the folks on YouTube and that sort of stuff do, where they're shooting things close to see how much it blows up and all that sort of thing, if there's the potential for that projectile to basically bounce off and go upwards without actually shattering, because what it hit, it can go through and tumble and do different things, then you do have to consider what's up there. So generally, that's not something that people in flight paths, I suppose that would be an issue. Next to airports, yes, there's a big issue involved with that. But it's also near properties and houses and things like that. If you're doing anything like that, up also has to come down. So it's something to be aware of, but I would say that goes to absolutely every firearm, to be truthful. You should not be shooting at things that you are not certain about where things are going to go. That's a very simple, straightforward, basic safety rule of using firearms. So that's about what I can tell you on this one. The likes of the super accurate, listen, it can be, but no, it's not. In the normal format, it's just simply bigger, so it's less accurate, and that might hurt some egos, but generally in the normal rifle, no, it's not the most accurate by a long shot. In its penetration power, listen, that's the bullet. And if it's a penetrating bullet, yes, but otherwise no, it doesn't penetrate more because it's bigger and badder. It works the same way. The bullets can tend to shatter, go on the ground. That's how it's going to work. In the likes of the blowing things off as it goes past, that style of things, no, that isn't how it works at all. Bullets don't do that. And that's the nature of a bit of myth and that sort of stuff. I get it, sounds cool, and maybe it's to scare people more or something or other, but no, they don't make any sort of thing as if they just miss, they miss. If they hit, they hit. And the airspace side of things, yeah, listen, that's probably it's not a concern to go with a BMG any more than it is with absolutely everything. Be sensitive about what you're shooting. If you do shoot things at close range, you've got to make sure you figured all that out. And that includes talking about the video of the dudes with 1,000 yards shooting something close and it ricocheting back. That's exactly that process. If you shoot something close like that, you've got to have made sense of where everything's going. And if you don't do it, because yeah, it might come back against you too. Anyway, guys, that's my little one on the 50 BMG round. Great round. All the things I said might sound like I don't like it. Listen, it is a great round. It's I know on a wish list for a lot of people to get to shoot one. It is just a big cartridge and it goes boom. But if you are doing it, there's no magic to go with it either. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for checking in, and we'll catch you next time.